Imagine a secret so profound, so utterly devastating, it could unravel years of a nation's hard-won independence. A betrayal so intimate, it could shatter the trust of a leader in his closest allies. This is the story of Ibrahim Traoré, a man whose unwavering commitment to his country's sovereignty led him down a path no president could ever anticipate. A path that exposed a clandestine war waged on his own soil. Get ready, because what you are about to read will shake your understanding of global power dynamics and the hidden forces that shape our world. If you want to dive deeper into stories of courage, conspiracy, and the fight for true freedom, make sure to subscribe, like this chapter, and leave a comment below sharing your thoughts. Now, let's begin. The morning coffee sat cooling, forgotten on Ibrahim Traoré's desk. Outside the presidential office, the vibrant hum of Ouagadougou was beginning to stir, a stark contrast to the sudden, suffocating silence that had fallen within. Traoré, usually a man of calm composure, felt a prickle of unease. His routine review of military reports, typically a methodical start to his day, had been violently interrupted. The heavy oak doors, usually closed with a soft click, had burst open, admitting Defense Minister Kaboré like a man fleeing a phantom. Sweat glistened on Kaboré's dark skin, despite the air conditioning humming overhead, a stark testament to a terror that transcended the tropical heat. In his trembling hands, a classified folder bore the stark red stamp, "Urgent, eyes only." "Mr. President," Kaboré gasped, his voice cracking with an urgency that sent a shiver down Traoré's spine. I intercepted something during last night's communication sweep. This changes everything." The leather chair creaked as Traoré leaned forward, his gaze fixed on his old friend's face. Kaboré's hands hadn't shaken like this since their military academy days, when incoming mortar fire had tested their courage and forged an unbreakable bond. This was different. This was a tremor born not of physical danger, but of a profound, unseen threat. "Show me," Traoré commanded quietly, his voice a low rumble of controlled power, masking the burgeoning storm within. The folder's contents made the air in the room feel thick, oppressive. Encrypted radio transcripts, dense technical analysis sheets, and most chilling of all, satellite coordinates that pointed to locations deep inside Burkina Faso. But these weren't from the usual suspects. No familiar jihadist chatter, no regional destabilizers. The metadata header, stark and unambiguous, read, "Source, Tel Aviv, destination, all assets, Burkina Faso territory." Traoré's breath hitched. "Kaboré," he whispered, his voice barely audible above the hum of the air conditioning. "How long have these transmissions been active?" His friend's Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed hard, the effort visible. "Our analysis, sir. 3 years, maybe longer." The words hit Traoré like physical blows, each syllable a hammer stroke against his carefully constructed reality. For 3 years, while he had been building his presidency on principles of sovereignty and independence, foreign operatives had been conducting secret operations under his very nose. The unsettling discovery was merely the first tremor. The full earthquake he knew was yet to come. And what happened next would terrify him.
The air in the presidential office, already heavy with the weight of the initial discovery, grew colder, more suffocating. Traoré's gaze was fixed on the secure tablet screen, where the first decoded message now glowed with an insidious light. Its language was cold, bureaucratic, a chilling mask over a devastating reality. Target Alpha confirmed, gold mine production data transmitted, local officials unaware of monitoring equipment installation. Traoré's military training kicked in, but it couldn't stop his hands from clenching into fists, knuckles white against his dark skin. Someone, some unseen enemy, was systematically stealing Burkina Faso's most sensitive economic data, bleeding his nation dry from the shadows. The audacious was staggering, the violation profound. Before he could fully process the implications of this economic theft, another message flickered onto the screen, striking closer to home, closer to his very soul. Target Beta, operational presidential communications intercepts running smoothly, subject unaware of security breach. The tablet nearly slipped from his grasp. They had been listening to him. His private conversations with his wife, the playful banter with his children, the strategic discussions with his most trusted advisors, all laid bare, analyzed, dissected by unseen ears. The thought was a violation, a chilling invasion of his most sacred spaces. He felt a wave of nausea, a profound sense of exposure that made his skin crawl. Target Gamma requires immediate attention. Iranian weapons shipment detected. Recommend intervention before delivery. Kabore's voice, though still strained, cut through the shock. Sir, there's something else, something personal. Little did Traoré know, this was just the beginning. Deep in the intelligence files, a document awaited, a sinister revelation that made Traoré's world collapse around him. A psychological profile starkly labeled Subject, Ibrahim Traoré, Threat Assessment, Critical. The file, dated 2 months before he had even taken office, analyzed his anti-Western tendencies and potential for Russian alignment with clinical, dispassionate precision. But it was the section titled Neutralization Options that froze his blood. They had been planning contingencies for his removal, for his elimination, before he had even become president. The sheer calculated malice of it left him breathless. There's more, Kabore said, his voice heavy with reluctance, about the source of these leaks. He handed over another file, this one containing a photograph that shattered Traoré's trust in everything he had built, in everyone he thought he knew. Colonel David Ouedraogo, his personal security advisor, the man who knew his children's names, who had shared dinner at his family table, who had stood as a bulwark between him and every conceivable threat. Ouedraogo was shaking hands with a stranger at a cafe in downtown Ouagadougou. The stranger's identification read, Eli Roth, Mossad Operations Officer. A sickening clarity flooded Traoré's mind as darker memories surged back with nauseating precision. Ouedraogo asking casual questions about meeting schedules, his insistence on accompanying Traoré to security-sensitive discussions with Russian advisors, his convenient absences during crucial Chinese investment meetings. For 8 agonizing months, Israel had been living inside Traoré's inner circle, recording every conversation, analyzing every decision, preparing for every contingency. The betrayal was a gaping wound, far deeper than any physical injury. How many people know about this? Traoré asked, his voice steady despite the storm raging inside. Just us, Kabore replied, and the 2 intelligence officers who made the discovery. I've sworn them to secrecy. The president nodded, his mind racing, a cold, hard resolve beginning to set in. If Ouedraogo was compromised, how many others were feeding information to Tel Aviv? How deep did this penetration go? The truth he was about to uncover would change everything.
The cold, hard resolve that had begun to set in Traoré's mind solidified into an unyielding determination. The betrayal by Ouedraogo was a personal wound, but the revelations that followed over the next 48 hours exposed a far vaster, more insidious cancer eating at the very heart of his nation. What they uncovered defied comprehension, a chilling tapestry woven from threads of espionage, control, and death. Hidden surveillance equipment was found in 3 strategic locations across Burkina Faso, meticulously disguised, silently recording. A telecommunications intercept station, a digital spider in the web, was discovered routing all internet traffic through Israeli servers, turning every byte of Burkinabe communication into an open book for Tel Aviv. But the most gut-wrenching discovery was an assassination list, a cold, clinical document containing the names of 3 local religious leaders. These were men of peace, voices of conscience who had dared to speak against Israel's policies in Gaza, advocating for justice and self-determination. The horrifying truth clawed at Traoré's throat. Those leaders were already dead. Their murders, previously blamed on shadowy jihadist groups, now screamed a different, more terrifying story. The intercepted communications, stark and undeniable, laid bare the truth. Targets eliminated without local attribution. Operations successful. "They killed our people," Traoré whispered, his voice a raw rasp, staring at the damning evidence spread across the conference table. "On our soil, in our name." Traoré's response came from somewhere deep and primal, a place where presidential protocol held no sway, where the fury of a nation betrayed ignited. His eyes, usually discerning and calm, now blazed with a righteous fire. "Then they've declared war on Burkina Faso." The words hung in the air, a solemn and terrifying vow. There would be no diplomatic niceties, no quiet protests. This was an act of war, and Burkina Faso, small as it was, would respond. The raids began at exactly 3:47 a.m. Coordinated strikes, executed with surgical precision, descended upon all 3 Israeli operational sites simultaneously. Traoré, unwilling to trust such a sensitive and pivotal operation to anyone else, personally led the team targeting the compound near the capital. The nondescript building, outwardly appearing as a legitimate telecommunications company, was a facade for a nest of vipers. What they found inside exceeded his worst nightmares. It was a fully operational Mossad station with assassination equipment in sealed cases, false identity documents for operatives, and, in a reinforced vault, thousands upon thousands of files detailing Project New Canaan. This wasn't just about Burkina Faso. This was Israel's continental surveillance network, spanning 12 African nations, a digital colonial empire built on the stolen data and compromised sovereignty of an entire continent. But the most damaging discovery, the one that truly solidified the chilling malice of their enemy, was a recent operational update. It outlined plans for Traoré's own elimination, scheduled for the following month. The method: helicopter malfunction during routine inspection. They had been planning his murder with the same clinical, bureaucratic detachment with which they stole gold data or intercepted private calls. The consequences of this discovery, this audacious act of state-sponsored terrorism, would not just shake Burkina Faso, they would shake 3 governments, and indeed the entire world. The stage was set for a confrontation that would redefine Africa's place in the global order.
The world held its breath. 72 hours after the coordinated raids, Ibrahim Traoré stood before global media, a silent, unyielding force. Behind him, tables were laden with the captured Israeli surveillance equipment, the very tools of their clandestine war. His hands, once clenched in fury, were steady now, his voice carrying the weight of absolute moral authority, resonating through the hall and across the watching world. "Today," he began, each word a hammer blow against the silence, "we expose state terrorism conducted by Israel against African sovereignty." He held up intercepted communications, their Hebrew text translated into stark, undeniable English. "While Israel claims to fight terrorism," Traoré declared, his gaze unwavering, "these documents prove they have been conducting systematic terrorism against African nations who dare support Palestinian rights." The evidence was overwhelming, a mountain of undeniable truth. Satellite imagery of the surveillance stations, chilling communications between Tel Aviv and operatives in Ouagadougou, video testimony from captured agents, and the technical specifications of assassination equipment. Within hours, the story dominated international headlines, shattering the carefully constructed narratives. Israel's immediate denials rang hollow, crumbling against the irrefutable documentation. More damaging still, a ripple effect began. Similar evidence, unearthed by newly emboldened intelligence agencies, began emerging from Mali, Niger, and Chad. Burkina Faso wasn't alone. A continent was stirring.
The transformation that followed was unprecedented in African politics, a seismic shift that echoed across the globe. Within 6 months, a dozen nations had simultaneously expelled Israeli intelligence operations, a united front against covert interference. The African Union, galvanized by Traoré's courage, passed its strongest resolution in decades, unequivocally condemning systematic espionage and assassination programs conducted by foreign powers on African soil. The silence, once a shield for the aggressors, was broken. Yet the personal cost for Traoré was devastating. The shadow of betrayal and the threat of reprisal clung to him. 3 assassination attempts targeted him in the following months, each a stark reminder of the forces he had dared to challenge. And then the final bitter pill. Colonel Oderago was found dead in his cell, officially ruled suicide but widely understood as an execution to prevent his testimony. The betrayal had cut deeper than any physical wound, leaving an indelible scar. During long nights in the presidential residence, now swept daily for surveillance devices, Traoré wrestled with questions that haunted him. How many others had been compromised? Could he truly trust anyone completely? Was true sovereignty even possible in a world where foreign powers felt entitled to African soil? Yet he never wavered. 1 year after the exposé, standing at the same podium where he'd first revealed Israel's operations, Traoré addressed the transformation his courage had sparked. "They told us the price of independence would be too high. They warned that challenging powerful nations would bring consequences." He gestured to the flags of 12 African nations, now flying proudly behind him, a vibrant testament to unity. "But the price of remaining silent, allowing foreign powers to murder our citizens, steal our resources, and plan our assassinations, that price was higher still." The audience rose as one, applause thundering through the hall and spilling into the streets of Ouagadougou, where thousands had gathered to watch. "Today," Traoré concluded, his voice ringing with triumph, "Africa stands taller because one small nation refused to remain silent about foreign terrorism. That courage has awakened a continent." As investigations continued across Africa, more Israeli operations emerged from the shadows, confirming the vastness of Project New Canaan. What had begun with Ibrahim Traoré's routine security briefing had become the continent's greatest counterintelligence victory since independence. The man who had accidentally discovered foreign surveillance in his reports had ignited an African awakening that would forever change the continent's relationship with those who sought to control it from afar. And that courage, that unwavering commitment to freedom, was worth every price they had to pay. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey through courage and revelation. If this story resonated with you, if it sparked a fire of curiosity or conviction, we urge you to like this chapter, share it with others who need to hear this truth, and leave your comments below with your thoughts and reflections. Your engagement helps us bring more powerful stories to light. And don't forget to subscribe to stay informed and be part of a community that values truth and sovereignty.